What's good with y'all, man? Appreciate y'all for clicking on the channel. Appreciate y'all for clicking on the video. It's Ashton Jordan. Make sure to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Like the video too, man. We're trying to hit 1,000 subs by the end of the year. We can only do that with y'all. Today I wanted to cover a real interesting video on the Breakfast Club. It happened not too long ago. There's a guy named Vivek Ramaswamy, if I'm saying that right, running for president. And the lady that interviewed him on the Breakfast Club was, well, I'll let y'all be the judge of that. So here we go. We're about to watch a masterclass on how to react when people are attacking you, to make sure you're holding your ground, but also being respectful to them.
It's a formula for corruption when you have unelected bureaucrats that are actually setting policy. But that's a detail compared to my point, which is we need to revive the ideals that the nation was actually founded on and do a better job of aspiring to them.
Now we have Teslin Figueroa. I'm sure Teslin has some questions. Tez, you good?
Yes, I do. So I've heard a lot of, what you think and your vision, and I'm a very practical person, and I want to kind of, opposed to talking about your opponents, let's talk about you for a moment, and let's actually talk about your policy. Explain to me your position on this civic duty voting.
Just keeping count real quick. That's one question she got off. We all saw it, right?
Sure. So my position is, I think that every kid who graduates from high school should know the minimums about the country that we require an immigrant to know about the country in order to become a citizen. So there's a test. My mom had to pass it. Every immigrant has to pass it to this country that asks you some basic questions. What are the three branches of government? What branch of government does the U.S. president lead? Some basic questions about what is the Bill of Rights. It's like a multiple choice exam, or some of them you write in. I think that if we're going to ask immigrants to pass that test, as we should, I think every 18-year-old who graduates from high school should have to pass that as well.
I see the point he's trying to make, but I don't agree with enacting that policy. I think the plan is to get as many people to vote as possible. That's typically the plan. So I don't know why he would run saying that he wants to do something that's going to drastically reduce that number. But I see what he's saying. But let's just keep count. They've interrupted his point after they asked him a question. That's one time. But we all see that he did get asked a question that he answered. I just want to keep count. That's one.
Because young people, it goes back to that issue of pride. You don't value a country that you don't know something about. You don't value something you inherit. You value something you have a stake in creating, in building, or knowing something about. So how do we think big about this? Well, young people, as I told you, most of them, very few of them vote as it stands today. Super small numbers. And apparently 60% of them say they would rather give up their right to vote than give up TikTok. Well, I say, all right, let's take that to the next level. How about we do something that raises the voting age from 18 to 25, but you still get to vote at 18 if you just pass that same civics test that an immigrant has to pass in order to vote. And tests aren't for everybody, so be it. Then you at least serve in the military or a first responder role for 6 months. Actually, the voting age only became 18 in 1971 in the context of the Vietnam draft. So I just think reviving those ideas is going to be good for us.
I think you're asking a lot. So let's prove your point. Nick, our camera guy, do you know the three branches of the federal government?
Over 24, so it don't matter.
But I'm just saying, but nobody knows there are 24. Red, do you know the three branches?
Executive.
Well, I got to tell
I hope you caught that. DJ Envy is probably the worst host of any radio show that exists right now. And this is why radio's dying. I mean, look at this guy. First off, he said, he posed the question to a guy who was over 24. And then the next guy he asked had the answer.
I got a test. I would like to see if you're willing to pass, because I believe and just as you believe in civic engagement, I believe in changing the ideas of what political opponents look like, what they should look like, or political candidates.
Everything she just said after that is invalidated. She called him an opponent at first. You just heard it, an opponent. What? The guy came on your show to literally preach his message, and you're calling him an opponent. How are you an opponent? Who are you?
Are you willing to take a test with me quickly? Because I just have a couple of questions for you.
I will,
so-
absolutely.
so just-
and the way this is opening up, I have a feeling I'm about to fail it, but that's good. Let's do it.
That's right. Yeah. Just for clarity, I am an independent. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican.
Cap.
I think that's important for the premise of the argument, because I know you did a lot of debating at Harvard. I also want to make it clear these are the same questions that I asked liberal Democrat Marianne Williamson. So I want to make sure that we put that out there as well, just to kind of set the foundation.
I'm
for the
open
test.
to being humbled. Let's do this.
Okay, great. Let's go. So you mentioned, the pride of being an American and how important it is to have pride in this country. I'm also a veteran, by the way,
Thank
for
you.
the United States Air Force. So when is it that you voted for the first time?
I voted in 2020.
Okay, so you're how old again?
I'm 37 years old.
So for how many years you sat around and did not get involved at all in any civic engagement? Is that my understanding?
A long time is the answer. And actually, that's what I wrote this book about. I'm not holding myself out as some sort of model. I'm actually offering myself as a self-reflection of my journey as a citizen to whom this country has given much, right? As an adult, when you have kids, it changes your perspectives.
So I'll say he messed up right here. There is no reason he should have just agreed with her, I guess, attack of saying that he just sat around and did nothing for all those years. He just said for a long time and he agreed with it, which was bad. It was a bad move, I think, but he wasn't sitting around and doing nothing, as is addressed later in this video, but keep watching. But that is now 2 questions that she's asked him that he has given her a coherent and honest answer. I just want to keep count.
I'm very honest about that. Absolutely.
Okay, no problem. So let's go deeper into the self-reflection. So you've sat around for, and sir, I'm being as respectful as I possibly can. Please don't take anything
and you don't even have to be. And you don't even have to be. So take it off and let's go.
So you've been sitting around in the country that my ancestors built for about 20 years. Your parents came over as immigrants, brought you over. You made millions, according to your resume, off of this country, and you have absolutely not been involved in civics. 1, not voting, and 2, let me just ask, because I know you mentioned earlier you don't want to sit around at the debate and talk about accomplishments. Let's make the accomplishments pretty simple. In high school, were you ever a class president or take any leadership role? Because your opponent did, Chris Christie. He was the class president. So have you ever taken any leadership at all on anything? Or just
I think that was a very ignorant question. Why boil his accomplishments down to high school as if that's where leadership stops? She brought up Chris Christie. Chris Christie's never won presidency and he's run a few times. I mean, why bring up Chris Christie? Who cares about that guy? And then why would you even say as if Vivek hasn't had any leadership up to this point? He's gone all the way to running 3rd place. Do you think somebody who's not a leader can get all the way to 3rd place for presidency? It just doesn't make sense, and it just shows blatant ignorance. Why ask these questions if you know nothing about the guy?
Can I just correct a couple factual things that are kind of important? My parents didn't bring me over to the country. I was born in this country, and I'm proud of that.
No, I know you were born here in Ohio.
Yeah.
Ohio.
You mentioned my parents.
I'm saying your parents were immigrants. My apologies.
That's all right. You said your parents brought you over to this country. I thought
my
I would
apologies.
set that record straight.
I mean, they were immigrants, but let's not go down the water hole.
Oh, no. We're not going to water hole. I just want to correct a couple facts. And then the other thing is,
you were born here in Ohio.
I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio. That's right.
Right. So you've been here your entire life. So the question.
Okay, so you saw that. He tried to correct some of the errors that she presented in her argument, and she wouldn't even let him finish. Completely talked right over him, just very arrogant and ignorant at the same time. And that combination is a combination for doom and failure, especially in women. If you're an arrogant, boisterous, ignorant woman, no one's gonna want to deal with you. Why would anybody want to deal with you? He just tried to set the record straight on a couple things she said, and when he tried to get to 1, she didn't even let him get there. Why would I deal with you?
That's right.
Did you take any leadership role in middle school, high school, class president?
I did.
I know you played tennis. What is it? Explain it to us.
Student council. But I think that this is Yes, I've held leadership roles over my life, but those don't qualify me to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Okay,
Well, it kind of does. Well, I'm giving the test. I'm the test administrator.
All right, there you go.
So it kind of does, because when you go from saying I want to go to the highest office,
and I'll tell you, I've led companies as well. Is the other leader?
Right,
the main leadership role I've played is and I want to talk about one early part of your premise that I also want to say, to bring it to the country point. The other point, you use the word sitting around. You know, I'm not somebody who's saying I want the next generation, my kids' generation, to have more civic duties when they graduate from high school and college than I did when I did. That being said, I wasn't sitting around. I've developed medicines, 5 of which are FDA-approved products today, one of which is a life-saving therapy in kids, 20 of whom die by the age of 3 if they're not treated, 70% of whom now live lives of a normal duration. Another one for prostate cancer. So I don't apologize for making contributions. But
right. Well, I don't want you to filibuster that because
Just
that's not the
sitting,
question that I asked. And I don't consider, as a veteran, I'm talking about service. I'm not talking about what you
Civic
did for
service,
profit. I'm not talking about what you paid.
So now she moved the
company.
goalpost entirely. He just brought up how he was not sitting around completely, which is why I wish he never agreed earlier, even slightly, that he was sitting around. Because he wasn't. He was developing medicines that save kids. Medicines that help with prostate cancer. This is not by any means sitting around. These are 2 very serious illnesses that he helped to treat. You know, so I don't think that qualifies as sitting around. Honestly, if anything, I think he was contributing more to society than she was, or her service was. Listen to the example that she brings up in a second of how she played a leadership role, and it's laughable compared to what Vivek did. But first, check out how DJ Envy comes in to glaze the non-existent meat that this woman has. We counted how many questions she got off, right? But check out what Glazer Mike B, DJ Envy, who will never be the star of any show, comes in to gobble glaze and say.
I've not served the country
because that
in the way
means
you
nothing
have.
to me.
You do
what I'm
realize
talking,
she hasn't been able to ask a question. She's been trying to ask a question, and you've been talking over her.
I'm all ears.
We gave you the platform to let you say.
I'm
what
all
you said.
defensive.
I've not served the country
because that
in the way
means
you
nothing
have.
to me.
You do
what I'm
realize
talking,
she hasn't been able to ask a question. She's been trying to ask a question, and you've been talking over her.
I'm all ears.
We gave you the platform to let you say.
I'm
what
all
you said.
defensive.
So Envy just has to be blind. Envy has to be blind, deaf, and dumb. And Charlemagne is a troll for saying you seem a little defensive. Charlemagne's he's not probably. Charlemagne is the second smartest in the room. It's definitely not that woman, and it's definitely not DJ Envy. We clearly observed Vivek get asked 2 questions that he answered and articulated his points on. And then when he tried to correct facts that she spouted about him, saying that his parents brought him over when that wasn't correct. And there was another one that he wanted to say, that he was just sitting around, and he didn't get to correct those 2. So if anybody got interrupted, I would say it's Vivek, but I guess the woman got interrupted. I don't know.
A leadership role. It's not good enough to just be on city student council. Were you a leader? All of that applies. Have you been able to get anybody in the room at any time, from a high school gymnasium to Ohio, Republican leadership there to now? Have you been able to get anybody in a room to believe in this vision? I don't agree with a lot of your vision statement, but I do know you've been going around having these discussions and getting everybody emotionally worked up to talk about vision and debate. But I want to get to the practical. You're trying to go from preschool to president of the United States. You're skipping over city council, county council, mayor, governor. You want to go straight to the top.
So this is clearly the mentality of complete matrix controlling and programming, because why would you tell somebody their limits? Why would you tell somebody that they must do things in the way that other people did them in order to be successful? If he feels like he doesn't need to go through all those routes to become president, why waste the time? We've had people in government for centuries that have been going the traditional route and still can't figure out what to do with the country. You had Trump, who was just in office, who literally was none of those things, and he is no question responsible for doing a better job with the economy than Joe Biden has, than Barack Obama did. So it's just interesting how she comes up with this theory that you must go through those routes first in order to be successful as president. I got one more clip from this video I want to watch, and then we're going to dissect another video that she did against another political candidate.
And I'll give you an example. I'll help you out. In sixth grade, Miss Harris, Miss Harris was let me give you an example because maybe you're confused. In the sixth grade, Miss Harris was snatching papers from everybody in the classroom. So me as a 10-year-old, I went to the principal and said, I'm tired of Miss Harris snatching papers. And I organized the students around getting Miss Harris to stop snatching papers. Now, there was a consequence for that. I got suspended for 5 days for talking back, and I got in trouble. I got a spanking, and I was on punishment for months and months. But that is a simple way of organizing people. So I want you to
I've seen it all. I've seen it all. I mean, this lady is trying to equate tattletelling on a teacher in 6th grade when she first got to middle school, and the teachers were a little more strict on her. When she first got to somewhere where she couldn't take the heat, she went and cried and organized, quote unquote, organized some 10-year-olds together to get a lady to stop snatching papers. My goodness. If that qualifies as being a leader, then of course he's done something. Do you really think that a guy who has been able to make it to the 3rd position, and I think he might even be 2nd now, he's polling ahead of DeSantis these days. So a guy who is in 2nd place in the Republican polls, do you think that guy is not capable of rallying people together like you did? He did it. The only difference is he rallied people together to make money, which is harder. So if you really want to be honest, he's done a lot more. He knows how to control and negotiate. So this whole argument that she just came up with, an analogy that she came up with, is ignorant, inequivalent, and just plain out stupid. Guys, I appreciate y'all for staying to the end of the video. If you guys appreciated this video, if you liked the video, go ahead and show it and give a thumbs up. We're trying to get this video to be seen by as many people as possible. Remember, the goal is 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I promise I will upload tomorrow. She did this to another presidential candidate, and I'm going to talk about that one too. I think she's a terrible host. I think she's a terrible interviewer, and I think she's just an overall bulldog of a human being. But tomorrow, we'll expand on this. Y'all stay blessed and subscribe. Thank you.